All right, so when you hear the name St. Augustine, you probably picture this distant, serious theologian, right? Some guy carved in stone. But for this explainer, we're going to push all that aside. We're going to look at Augustine the man, someone who really, truly wrestled with one of the most basic human things there is, friendship. Its joys, its gut-wrenching losses, and what he learned about what makes a connection strong enough to survive, well, just about anything. Just take a second. Think about it. That feeling, right? The confusion, the emptiness, that ache. That exact feeling is where we're starting, because that's where Augustine's lifelong obsession with friendship began. This wasn't some academic exercise for him. It started with a broken heart.
I mean, listen to that. Those are not the words of some detached philosopher sitting in an ivory tower. That is the raw, painful cry of a young man whose entire world has just crumbled around him. And this one event, this single tragic loss, would go on to shape everything he thought about love and connection. So let's go back. Let's go all the way back to the beginning, to this friendship that meant everything to a young Augustine and whose ending became the most brutal, but also the most important lesson of his life. This is how he talked about his childhood friend. I mean, we're not talking about some casual buddy here. This was a deep, all-in kind of connection. They did everything together, grew up together, and Augustine truly felt like they were two halves of the same person. He loved this friend, as he later wrote, as if he would never die, which, of course, is where the trouble starts. And then the absolute unthinkable happens. His friend gets terribly sick. While he's unconscious, he gets baptized. When he wakes up, Augustine, tries to be their old selves, making a little joke about the whole ceremony. But nope, something has completely shifted. His friend looks at him with horror, calls him an enemy, and basically says, if you want to be my friend, don't ever talk like that again. And then, a few days later, he's gone. So for Augustine, this is a devastating 1-2 punch. First, this shocking spiritual rejection, and then death itself. Augustine is just completely broken. He can't even understand the depth of his own grief. He says his hometown became a form of torture because every single thing reminded him of his friend. He ends up fleeing to another city, Carthage, trying to outrun a sadness that was inside him. He literally describes himself as carrying around his own torn and polluted soul. And this crisis, this complete breakdown, forces him to look in the mirror and ask the question that would drive him for the rest of his life. What went so wrong here?
And this is the big aha moment. This is the crucial turning point. He realizes he'd made a huge mistake. He had poured all his love, his entire soul, into something perishable, into a mortal person who could be taken away. And the sheer pain of that loss led him to this radical new idea. A true friendship, a bond that can actually last, can't just be about liking the same things or even having deep affection. For it to be unbreakable, it has to be anchored in something that can't be lost. It has to be a friendship where two people are held together by their shared love for God.
So Augustine develops this powerful theory of God-centered friendship, born from this incredible loss. But, theories are one thing, real life is another. Because death isn't the only thing that can wreck a friendship. Decades later, as a famous, powerful bishop, he'd run into a completely different kind of test. A full-blown intellectual feud with an equally famous and famously grumpy friend.
Okay, so meet our contestants. In this corner, you've got Augustine, who now believes that it's a friend's duty to correct another friend if they're wrong. And in the other corner, we have St. Jerome, a genius, a brilliant scholar, but let's just say notoriously short-tempered. He's living as a hermit and really does not like being told he's wrong. And their entire friendship, it happens through snail mail. And let me tell you, it gets spicy. So here's how the drama kicks off. Augustine writes a letter pointing out what he thinks is a mistake in Jerome's work. But, and this is a big but, the letter gets lost, delayed, and passed around. It basically goes viral in the ancient world before Jerome himself ever gets to read it. So Jerome only hears about this criticism secondhand, and his mind just goes to the worst possible place. He starts thinking Augustine is trying to tear him down in public just to make himself look good. After years of this back and forth of letters getting lost and feelings getting hurt, Jerome's famous temper just erupts. He fires back this absolutely blistering letter accusing Augustine of being an arrogant young upstart trying to get famous. And he basically tells him, hey, go pick on someone your own size and leave me alone.
Now, what's so great about this is it's just so human. It shows you that even these towering figures of history, these saints, had egos, they had misunderstandings, and they definitely got angry.
Now, that whole fiery mess with Jerome is the perfect example of how not to do it, according to Augustine's own philosophy. So let's take a look at the kind of friendship he was actually trying to build, an ideal that he called fraternal correction. See, at the exact same time he was having this mail-in cage match with Jerome, Augustine was also writing to another friend, Paulinus of Nola. And in these letters, the vibe is completely different. This was the friendship where Augustine felt safe enough to actually practice what he preached, to show what he thought Christian friends should be to each other.
And this quote right here, this is the heart of it all. He's telling Paulinus, hey, if you ever read something I wrote and you think it's wrong, please tell me. Because in that mistake, you're seeing the real me, flaws and all. For Augustine, you see, real love isn't just about patting your friends on the back. It's about being willing to gently correct them, to help them get better, and, just as important, having the humility to take that correction yourself.
So here it is. This is basically Augustine's guide to fraternal correction, the exact thing that went so haywire with Jerome. First, you have to be coming from a place of love, not trying to hurt them. Second, you attack the mistake, not the person. Third, and this is huge, you have to be willing to be corrected too. And finally, the whole point isn't to win the argument. It's for both of you to get closer to the truth. It's about building each other up, not tearing each other down.
So after a lifetime of this, of loving friends, of losing friends, of arguing with friends, where did Augustine finally land on the whole thing? Well, he arrived at this really profound and maybe a little bittersweet final take on friendship's real place in our lives. Late in his life, writing his masterpiece, The City of God, he lays out this powerful paradox. On the one hand, friendship is our greatest comfort. In a world that's filled with pain and trouble, our friends are, as he says, our one solace. But, and here's the flip side, the more people you love, the more you have to fear for. The more friends you have, the more you worry about them. To love someone, he realized, is to open yourself up to the anxiety of losing them.
And he takes this anxiety to a place that might sound kind of shocking to us. He says the absolute worst thing you could hear about a friend isn't that they died. As awful as that is, no. The real horror, for Augustine, is hearing that they've lost their way, that they've fallen from the faith or become a bad person. The fear of a friend's spiritual death was actually much more terrifying to him than the certainty of their physical one.
In the end, was it worth it for him? I mean, his entire life screams yes, but he never, ever pretended it didn't come with a cost. What his journey shows us is that real connection is never easy. It's our greatest comfort and our biggest vulnerability, all wrapped up in one. And so his story leaves us wrestling with the very same question he did for over 70 years, a question we all have to answer for ourselves.